Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. This is the show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. We got a lot of stuff to get through today, so let's just jump right into it. All right, so first up, we got A24 teaming up with Google to do AI nonsense. Let's just read this Hollywood Reporter article. In a striking marriage of Silicon Valley and Hollywood, the buzzy entertainment company A24 and the pioneering AI lab Google DeepMind are joining forces. The studio of Marty Supreme and Backrooms will develop tools in concert with the London-based neural network giant that can then be used by the studio's filmmakers while also being funneled back into the Google ecosystem. As part of the deal, DeepMind will invest $75 million in the project. We best believe the best way to develop tools that empower artists is to work directly with them. Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis said in a statement posted on Google's website. By collaborating with filmmakers and industry leaders like A24 from the beginning, we can build new AI features to support artists in authentic, meaningful storytelling that helps enable their creative vision. The pact is a multi-year one and is not exclusive, allowing A24 to work with other AI companies and models and DeepMind with other studios. For the company, a partnership with A24 provides access to a roster of highly respected auteurs to refine their tools, valuable currency as tech giants seek to improve their models, while also not insignificantly providing a kind of street cred seal of approval that could induce other companies and filmmakers to work with them. At a time when top creatives like Guillermo del Toro and Vince Gilligan expressed deep skepticism about those tools' place in the filmmaking process, such blessings are not just nice add-ons, but existentially vital for the tech giants. Meanwhile, the deal catches up A24 to where some of its competitors have already landed, with Netflix and Amazon Studios developing tools for filmmakers and Lionsgate building models in collaboration with hot startup player Runway AI. In a social post, Belsky sought to argue for this customized approach. There are better uses of storytelling tech to discover, ones that preserve creative control and support creative risk-taking, he wrote, seeming to contrast his approach with a more catch-all video general model. These workflows are to be discussed, but excited for our lab's team to work with DeepMind team in this research partnership. Shared curiosities and asking the right questions lead us to the better way. He said the studio is already prototyping a storyboard tool following on the heels of Martin Scorsese announcing several weeks ago, that he was doing the same thing. Storyboarding is becoming an increasingly popular use case for AI, allowing creatives to pitch and iterate while still keeping consumer releases human-led. Okay, so that was kind of a lot, but I think that the article does kind of a good job at bringing up a lot of stuff that it makes it hard for me to like be upset with A24 specifically for going down this direction. You know, a lot of people view A24 as this like artistic first oh, we make real film, quote unquote. We're not like one of those other big studios that just regurgitate slop. And so I think a lot of people were surprised to see A24 go in this direction, but the reality is that in order to keep up with the industry, these studios are probably going to have to use AI to some extent. I would imagine, right? Because if Disney and Universal are using AI and it's leading to them creating product like way faster than you, I can imagine it being the case that it's going to be that it's kind of not feasible for the other studios around them to not follow suit, or else they're going to be left behind. I feel like that's like the best faith argument you can sort of give for this. I mean, look, this is where it comes down for me. At the end of the day, the reason why I consume art is because I want to see an expression of a human being. Like that's like the main reason why I enjoy art. And that's the main reason why I don't like AI generated content. Like, if I'm want to watch a performance, right, or like I want to see a human being's performance, I want to see, Brad Pitt's all the decisions that he makes when he's being filmed in order to deliver a performance. If it's like an animated movie, I want to see like an artist's all the artist's decision when animating a movie in order to express something. Like, you could make the argument that some asshole like writing code and generating something, oh well, that's their human expression, but it's inherently just less interesting to me because it's not. He just wrote some code. Like, it's not his expression. It's the expression of a computer. And so that's the main reason why I'm against AI in AI generated content. Like, I'm sure there's some like parts of the process that you could use AI for that I would be okay with. I'm not going to pretend like I'm super familiar with the filmmaking process, but you know, even me as a YouTuber, like the main thing that I use AI for is for thumbnails. Like, I will I've occasionally messed around with like AI generating something. Like I'll if I'm talking about a specific person, I have done it in the past where I've AI generated that person like upset or angry or something. I think I did it to Asmongold on my main channel. um, and you know, for stuff like that, I guess it's fine. And hey, maybe that is me making an excuse for myself because it made my life easier. But also like the thumbnail isn't really like what I care about. Like, I would never AI generate something in my actual video. Like, I would like, especially because it's just me talking. It's like I'm never gonna like AI generate me like reviewing something, because that would be ridiculous. That goes against the entire point of why I imagine people watch movie reviews. It's because they want to see a human's perspective on a film. And so at the end of the day, I just feel like that is where the barriers should be defined. Of if you get to a point where it's just clearly not a human being's expression, then I'm not okay with it. So we're obviously gonna have to wait and see what comes out of this, but the reality is that AI movies are being made. Right now, they kind of look shitty, but I don't think that's the. I don't think that is the place that we should be fighting, right? Like, whenever an AI generated movie comes out, I don't think that the argument that we should be making is it looks terrible. That's why AI is bad. Because the reality is that it's going to get to a point where it doesn't look terrible. Like, AI is going to get to a place where we're not going to be able to tell that it's AI. And I really think that we should be getting ready to make the argument of that's not the point. Like, it doesn't matter if I get tricked by AI because I have philosophical reasons to be against AI generated content. But we'll see what happens with A24 specifically, I guess. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. All right, next up, we got some more information on Dynamic Duo. This is the upcoming animated film by DC Studios. We'll read some of this article from The Wrap. To explain, Dynamic Duo is made with a combination of computer animation, models, and large-scale puppetry. The way the characters move and their faces on those characters is genuinely unlike anything you've ever seen before. And the Gotham City that the Swaybox team has assembled, by their own admission, is more expansive than any put on film before. You may have watched Swaybox's test on a puppet of Hogarth from the Iron Giant, which was genuinely mind-blowing, but seeing that technology on the scale of a feature-length animated project set in the world of Batman, truly unstoppable. So yeah, if people haven't seen this video here, this is a studio that's really trying to like pioneer like a new form of puppetry and blending it with CGI. So let me just play some of this. Like, this looks crazy. These puppets look insane. And so then they like recreated a scene from the Iron Giant. And so yeah, like apparently this is a blend of puppetry as well as CGI. So like the face, some of the animation on the face is CGI animated, but then I'm assuming that like the hair and the hands and stuff are like completely practical. So yeah, like what this studio is doing is crazy, and I am very excited to see what they're able to do in a feature-length film. this was another video that they did. Like, just look at this dude. Imagine just a Gotham City in this style of puppetry / animation. Like, these guys are genuinely doing something innovative here. And I actually could see Dynamic Duo coming out and becoming like the next Spider-Verse, like the next truly innovative film that also happens to be a comic book movie. But yeah, continuing this article here from the Wrap, the closest analogy is seeing what Christopher Miller, Phil Lord, and their entire team are doing on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse for the first time. Yeah, definitely stole that talking point, I guess. I didn't mean to do that. Both in how cutting edge the visuals were, but also in the way that it was able to translate characters that you know almost on a molecular level and do something wholly unique and unexpected with them. As for the story of Dynamic Duo, so this is really where the news is, where they give us some more information on the plot. As for the story of Dynamic Duo, it follows two Robins, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, told from a teenager's perspective. We watch as they goof around Gotham and are swayed by two very different adult figures in their lives. For Grayson, it's Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. For Jason Todd, it's the villainous Red Hood. At a certain point, Todd assumes the identity of the Red Hood, sometimes for good, sometimes for not so good. There was one beautiful test shot of the Red Hood walking around a subway car. As Dynamic Duo director and Swaybox founder Arthur Smith said, when Todd looks in the shiny, reflective Red Hood helmet, he sees himself. When Dick Grayson looks at the helmet, he sees something very different. So yeah, we knew that this was going to be a story about Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, but I don't think that we knew that within this movie we were going to see Dick Grayson become Robin and be mentored by Batman. And then presumably Jason Todd is going to wind up joining the Red Hood gang. Presumably he's going to be mentored by the Red Hood, aka Joker, I think. Is it that sort of how a lot of the iteration of that goes, is that the Red Hood, the leader of the Red Hood gang, doesn't he sometimes become the Joker? I could be wrong about that. Or no, wait, no. I think the storyline is that Joker is a part of the Red Hood gang? I don't know. Who cares? Either way, yeah, the fact that it is going to be kind of like an Elseworlds where two Robins are like they're brothers, and then they turn into enemies. Like, that just sounds like such an interesting story, and certainly has the potential, especially in this animated style, to be something really, really special. Continuing reading this article, Warner Brothers is clearly jazzed about Dynamic Duo, already showing off stuff from the movie, even with it being very far off at this point. And they are clearly invested in the Swaybox aesthetic, both literally and figuratively. Another project is already in development at the studio, based on an equally beloved property. And once you see footage from Dynamic Duo, you'll be just as excited. Talk about Super. So yeah, Warner Brothers is already making another movie in this style. So it seems like they're going to really try and capitalize on this and have this be like their animated movie style, kind of like how Sony has almost trademarked that like Spider-Verse animated style. Even though obviously other studios are like aping it, but anytime another studio tries to do it, people are like, oh, that's the Spider-Verse style. I think that's kind of what they're trying to like solidify here, Sony, where they're going to be like, I think they want people to look at this really innovative puppetry thing and be like, oh, that's the Dynamic Duo style. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the movie lives up to its potential, because we're going to be talking about a movie later on that didn't live up to its potential. All right, next up, let's talk about the Gears of War live-action movie that's coming to Netflix. I had no idea this was a thing, but we got some information on it. It's coming from Entertainment Weekly. Delta Squad is in your house, bitch. Netflix's upcoming Gears of War movie will officially be an origin story for Delta Squad, the main infantry team of the video game franchise on which it is based. The origin of Delta Squad, a ragtag crew of soldiers who wage a desperate war for survival against the Locust, a race of subterranean creatures set on destroying humanity, an official longline description reads. David Leitch, the filmmaker who gave us Bullet Train and The Fall Guy, will direct Netflix's Gears of War and produce it through his 87 North company, John Spaeth's, a writer on the Dune movies, is behind the script. The game really is about the bonds between teams. It's about brotherhood at its core. Matt Booty. Funny game. Xbox's executive vice president and chief content officer tells EW, when you visit the studio, their tagline is, never fight alone. So when you think about that for a dramatic narrative, it's a pretty good starting point. Gears of War from publisher Xbox Game Studios. Do I need to read this? Why did I? Oh, sure. I'll read the concept of what the franchise is about. With the concept centered around a war between mankind and the Locust Horde that emerges from beneath the Earth on the planet Sarah. In the main game series, you follow Marcus Phoenix, the head of Delta Squad, the team that fought in key conflicts across the campaign. So yeah, I've never played a Gears of War game. In fact, that description kind of confuses me. It says that it's a war between mankind and aliens, but they emerged beneath the Earth on the planet Sarah. That's not a sentence that makes sense. Can you emerge beneath the Earth, but on a different planet? Are they from that planet? If they're from the planet Sarah, then how did they emerge from beneath the Earth? Do they mean that they emerged from the planet Sarah and then attacked Earth? I don't know. Also, it probably doesn't actually matter. But yeah, I can't say I've ever had the urge to play a Gears of War game. They seem very generic to me, just like guys with guns, shooty. I don't know. I'm not really into games like that, to be honest with you. But you know, I know the new one is coming out and it's like a prequel, so I might check that out, and I'll probably watch the Netflix movie if I feel like it at the time and to cover it. So yeah, we'll see, but definitely let me know if a Netflix live action film like is at all appealing to you as a Gears of War fan. But I mean, the reality is that Microsoft is kind of going balls deep into production, and adapting like a bunch of their stuff. So this is all a part of like a big Entertainment Weekly like extravaganza thing. So let's just read through some of this. Sharma, that's the CEO of Xbox. Sharma's vision is to turn Xbox into not just the biggest gaming company, but the biggest entertainment company. That includes expanding their imprint in Hollywood by piggybacking off the success of a Minecraft movie and Fallout with numerous other movie and TV adaptations in the works. The main goal, though, remains making Xbox the go-to destination for play. EW can also report that the Sea of Thieves will be developed into a live-action movie. Marvel filmmaker Destin Daniel Cretton will produce through his company Hisako Films. A director is not yet attached. The main character of a Sea of Thieves game is actually the player and the community, Booty explains. So if you sit down to think about Sea of Thieves, it's not who are the main characters, what's the plot. It's a super social game, but there's a tone to Sea of Thieves. It's built on a very cooperative community, so you can start to sense what that's going to be like. They also talk a little bit about Halo in this article. So it says the previous Halo adaptation at Paramount Plus didn't make it past season 2, but the series shot to the top of the charts when Netflix picked up its streaming distribution. Could it come back? Halo, first and foremost, is one of our biggest franchises. Booty more generally comments on the property. It's iconic to Xbox, and we're certainly going to invest going forward. So it does seem like Halo is something that they want to figure out at some point. Because, yeah, like that's one of their main things. And then we also actually got a little bit of an update on Marvel's Blade. So let's see what this is about. Another is Marvel's Blade, the game based on the half-vampire Daywalker from the comics, made famous by Wesley Snipes' rendition on the big screen. I'm not at liberty to say when we'll see more, Todd Howard teases. I saw some stuff just yesterday, and the folks at Arcane are doing a really, really great job. So, yeah, that's just like a bunch of Xbox news. Like, yeah, the Gears of War stuff, I don't know that I necessarily care about that, but I might check it out if I feel like it's worth covering on the channel. Sea of Thieves is another game that I'm just like not Like, I've never played it. Doesn't look appealing. Not into like live service games. Um, Halo, I thought the show was fine. I don't care about the games really, so I didn't have any of the same criticisms where it's like, oh, Master Chief can't have sex. It's like, why not? I just don't think that the show is particularly good. So, if anything, they'll probably turn that into like a movie, maybe. That would be that might be the way to go, to try to do a big movie thing. Because it's like, do you reboot the show? Do you try to bring the show back with Netflix because of it being popular there? I don't know. That one I think is going to be a lot rougher, because I do think that the Paramount Plus series ruined it. And then Blade. So the Marvel's Blade game is kind of like, not nearly as tumultuous as the MCU movie, but it is similar in the sense that they announced it a long time ago and we've yet to hear anything about it. So the fact that, because this is a very like curated article written by Entertainment Weekly, but it's clearly approved by Microsoft. So I do think that the fact that they elected to include a mention of Marvel's Blade means that the game is probably safe and we will probably see it. Because the other context surrounding this article is that Microsoft and Xbox, they are like laying off so many developers because of how bad the Xbox business is doing. And studios are shutting down all over the place. So like one of the real possibilities that, the world of gaming has been discussing is the idea of the studio that makes that is making the Blade game being shut down. So I don't know. I feel like them mentioning it in this article indicates to me that is a game that they're going to see through. But anything is possible. Like if you don't follow the games industry, so many studios are like shutting down and laying people off, and it's very tumultuous right now. But we shall see. All right, next up, apparently they're making another Thundercats movie, because that seems like a really good idea after Masters of the Universe. So it says here, 5 years on from the last Cartoon Network series and almost 40 years since the original series ended, Warner Brothers Animation has finally announced development of a new animated Thundercats movie. The news was revealed at Annecy International Animation Film Festival. So that is definitely the interesting thing about this, is that they are doing a Thundercats movie, which I never would have thought that they would do after the failure of He-Man. But it is going to be animated, which I guess is a little bit lower stakes. I think they're probably going to hope that they can attract like families and stuff, and like actually attract kids with like a movie about, furry animal people. Maybe try to get some of that Zootopia audience instead of like He-Man, where it seems like kids just like they made a movie for kids, but kids just were not interested at all. So yeah, I can't say that I have any experience with He-Man. I haven't seen literally any piece of media with them. So I don't know. I hope for the best for the people, for like the geriatrics, the elderly, that care about these classic like 80s properties that general audiences today are just completely rejecting. But we'll see. Hopefully it's good. All right, next up, we got something from my generation, okay? Apparently there's a Powerpuff Girls movie coming out as well. So this is coming from Variety. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup are heading to the big screen. A new Powerpuff Girls movie is in development at Warner Brothers Pictures Animation. The company shared Monday at Annecy International Animation Film Festival, which is currently taking place in France. Sources at the studio confirm a Powerpuff Girls film is in the works, but stress there's no deal in place. Given the lack of a green light at the moment, plot details for the upcoming adventure haven't been announced. So yeah, this is another property that's definitely, more relevant probably than like He-Man or Thundercats, at least with like more younger audiences. But even still, I don't know that there is going to be much of an audience for Powerpuff Girls. Like, I mean, I guess it depends on the approach, right? Like, it's going to be animated. Um, I don't know. I guess they might try to go for that like K-pop Demon Hunters crowd, maybe, where if you make a movie about that's like stylized and give it interesting animation. I mean, but then I don't know, but I don't like my I guess the K-pop Demon Hunters thing is coming from like a group of girls that fight crime or whatever, or obviously that's not exactly what the K-pop Demon Hunters do, but that's kind of the comparison that I'm going for. But no, I mean K-pop Demon Hunters is specifically targeting K-pop, and there's music attached to it, which helps with the popularity. Like Powerpuff Girls doesn't really have that. I don't know. Like we've obviously seen with things like Captain Marvel and now Supergirl that like there really isn't this audience of little girls that want to see superheroes, that want to see like female superheroes and want to go, that's me, that represents me. Like that's not really an audience that exists so much. Like I think that, and by the way, this is not me saying that you shouldn't have female superheroes. I should stress that because I am going to rip into Supergirl later. But like when you make those kinds of movies, you should probably realize and acknowledge that even though it's a female superhero, like you should still be marketing it and making it for men, because that's just what the audience is for these kinds of movies. But anyways, that's like a separate conversation from Powerpuff Girls. I don't know. The question or the answer is I don't know. I know my sister, for example, she liked the Powerpuff Girls when we were kids. And so like I think if you make it, you would have to make a movie that isn't so angled at little kids, because I don't think that little kids today care about Powerpuff Girls. But I think if you make a movie that is obviously kid friendly, but is kind of more so aimed at the millennial generation, you might be able to strike an audience of women that grew up with the Powerpuff Girls and that maybe want to take their daughters and their family to see it. I think that's how I would go for it. So I would try and go for something more like a Spider-Verse, more like a Puss in Boots and the Last Wish, like an actually good movie, as opposed, because I think if you do like a Powerpuff Girls movie that's like on the level of like the Mario movie or like an Illumination movie, I think that's where you're not going to have much success, because babies that do care about those properties, I don't think they're going to care about Powerpuff Girls, because I think it's a little irrelevant at this point. So anyways, I don't know. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of that. I probably spent way too long analyzing the Powerpuff Girls, if I'm being completely honest. All right, guys. So next up, we got some Avengers Endgame news. They're going to be re-releasing Avengers Endgame, and they're going to be adding DLC. Cool, I guess. This is coming from Deadline. Infinity Vision, the large screening format standard which Disney is introducing for its upcoming re-release of the Marvel Studios Russo Brothers directed Avengers Endgame and their December mega tentpole Avengers Doomsday, has received more than 7,500 applications from global exhibitor screens looking for certification. The studio is in the process of verifying those screens ahead of Avengers Endgame Encore's release on September 25th. Note the fresh title for the Pix re-release. From the stage, Disney announced that the Infinity Vision release of Avengers Endgame Encore will include a custom introduction, additional new footage, and a special end tag exclusive to Infinity Vision and IMAX releases. In order for an exhibitor's screen to receive the Infinity Vision branding, they have to meet the following standards. The screen needs to be a minimum of 45 feet wide, I think. Is that what that means? Anyways, have an immersive sound system like Dolby Atmos or 7.1 brightness levels needed to reach either 14-foot Lamberts in 2D and or 6-foot Lamberts in 3D? Anyways, as interest in enhanced theater amenities continues to grow, there is a meaningful opportunity for our collective industry to simplify how we communicate and promote the range of premium large format PLF experiences that are available to consumers. We commend Disney for taking an important first step towards advancing this objective and look forward to collaborating with them and our broader industry partners to align on a unifying PLF brand and set of standards, said Cinemark CEO Sean Gamble. So I think that this is a whole lot of nonsense. I feel like the idea of adding DLC to movies is kind of lame. I don't know. This kind of thing is kind of just like a money grab to me. Like if you filmed something that you want to have attached or want to like give some more context to Doomsday, then I feel like it should just be released as its own thing on a YouTube video. I feel like trying to like get money out of people by just like attaching it to a re-release of Avengers Endgame is pretty corny in my opinion, especially when you're like making it exclusive to this bullshit Infinity Vision thing, which is just like, by the way, like I'm not even like super knowledgeable about like projection and stuff. Like I generally don't care what movie theater I go to. I don't even live around IMAX screens. Here in Georgia, we have these like things called a GTX in like our movie theater chain, and like I don't even know what it is. Like I doubt it's definitely not IMAX because I think it would have to be called IMAX. But yeah, that's like our premium large format thing, and it's like I don't care. I generally don't care if I'm watching something in that in those premium large formats versus the regular ones. Although I guess maybe I would feel differently if I actually watched an IMAX movie. Maybe it would be like that Danny DeVito meme where it's like, I get it now. But I also kind of doubt it because I'm an idiot and I don't understand technology. But yeah, my main beef with this, though, is just the idea of trying to do a weird money grab where you're like changing a movie that already exists and adding stuff to it and charging people money for it. I don't know. It's cringe. Will it get me if they screen this in a theater around me? Probably. So, sure, to be greedy, Disney, because it's going to work. Anyways, let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. All right, next up, we got to talk about Supergirl and what I think that the movie's performance is going to ultimately mean for DC Studios and what I think it should mean for DC Studios. So, first of all, let's talk about, I think, the box office, because I think that's what most people are talking about in regards to this topic. So this is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. Toy Story 5 continued to soar at the box office while Supergirl experienced some turbulence. Oh, get it because you can fly. In its weekend debut with $38 million domestically and $68 million globally. That's really bad. Now, the good thing going for this movie, or like the one thing that it has going for it, is that they did make it pretty responsibly, right? Like, it doesn't have like the $200-300 million budget that a lot of these comic book movies have. I mean, it's still a massive budget, of course, but it has more of along the lines of like $175 million budget, which is that's what's being reported. They also went pretty all out in getting like advertising money and partnerships to where, you know, when you look at stuff, when it comes to stuff like, you know, like the KFC Supergirl meal, and like partnerships like that. Apparently they were able to raise $100 million just with like partnerships like that. So apparently the Supergirl movie has generated $100 million with all of that, that partnership stuff. And so it has $100 million head start. And so I listen, doing like some rough math, generally speaking, when you're trying to figure out how much a movie needs to be profitable, you want to multiply its budget by 2.5 because that's generally going to take into account a marketing budget, which we don't have the marketing budget for Supergirl right now, as well as like the theatrical take. And so I think that if you do that, you get around like $400 million that it needs to make. And then you minus that by the $100 million head start that Supergirl has. Like, according to my very rough calculations, I think this movie needs to make around like $300 million in order to break even. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to do that. Frankly, it might end up making like less than 200. I mean, that is a very real possibility. Because the reality is that if you just look at the box office numbers for movies, for DC movies, and for the past like 6 or 7 years, if your name isn't Batman or Superman, you're probably going to end up flopping at the box office. Like, that just kind of is what it is. So if we look over here, this is Superman. Superman cost $125 million to make, or no, what am I saying? It had a budget of, sorry, I'm not saying the information that needs to be said. It opened to $125 million and it made $618 million. So that movie was a success. Here we have Joker Folly Dicks. This movie opened to $37 million, only went on to make $207 million worldwide. Massive flop. Here we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This movie opened to $27 million, went on to make $440 million worldwide. And the only reason why it made that much is because for some reason internationally people love Aquaman. I don't understand it, but even still, I don't think that this was a financial success for them. This is Blue Beetle. It only made $25 million in its opening weekend, only went on to make $130 million worldwide. This is The Flash. It made $55 million in its opening weekend. It only went on to make $271 million. Massive flop. This is Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods. It made $30 million in its opening weekend. Went on to make $134 million worldwide. Here we have Black Adam, which it made $67 million in its opening weekend. That only went on to make $393 million worldwide. And that's frankly the only reason why it even made as much as it did, I think, is because at the time The Rock still carried some cachet. And then we have The Batman, which opened to $134 million and went on to make $772 million. So that was obviously a success. Like, that's just the reality of DC at the box office, because what that reality is that the general audiences just don't care about the brand outside of the key core characters. Like, I'm sure a Wonder Woman movie that, doesn't come out during COVID because that's when Wonder Woman 84 coming out. But I'm sure if you make a Wonder Woman movie, audiences might be more interested in that. But that was always the puzzling thing about greenlighting a Supergirl movie. Because if they really thought that audiences were going to want to see a Supergirl movie in 2026, then James Gunn, Peter Safran, and David Zaslav need to go see a psychiatrist so that they can get prescribed some antipsychotics. Like, there's no way, there's no data, there's nothing to prove that this movie was going to end up performing much better than those previous movies that I just ran down. The only reason why I can think of as to why you might want to greenlight a Supergirl movie in 2026 is if you think it's going to be a great movie that continues furthering the brand of the DCU, right? That follows up Superman with maybe not a super financially successful movie, but with a movie that is at least really good, and the word of mouth of the DCU continues to be, hey man, that Superman movie that we all really liked? They just put out a Supergirl movie and it was actually pretty freaking good. Like, that's the main reason why I think you would want to make a Supergirl movie. Because if this movie had been a Thunderbolts, I think that would have been like an okay thing for DC. Because Thunderbolts, even though it didn't make money, it was one of those Marvel properties, which they have so few of nowadays, where although they are getting better, they are getting a little more consistent. But I remember, especially at the time, it was like one of those few Marvel properties where you could be like, hey, but Thunderbolts was good. Andor is that show for Star Wars. And I think projects like this are viable. I think they are meaningful. I think people being able to point to good projects when talking about the state of your brand, that is a meaningful thing. And so that's why, so I say all this to say that, yes, obviously the box office is bad. Studios don't want to lose money. But I think the most damaging part about Supergirl is that it's just not a good movie. Right? So, like, when you come over here, it has a 56 critic score. Like, that's not good. 77% audience score. Like, that's okay. That's I guess like the one Pyrrhic victory that you can get, but even still, it has like a B- cinema score. So even the people that you maybe liked it, they're not like, nobody's enthusiastically liking this movie. And that to me is the main reason why this movie is a failure, is because it's not going to do much to further the reputation of DC, because that's the main thing that I think DC needs right now. DC needs a consistent string of quality content that starts repairing the brand damage of DC, and that makes people more confident in thinking that if they go check a DC movie out, that it will be good. So, yeah. Now, I do think that there is some Chicken Littling going on around Supergirl. Like, I don't think that this movie being bad is like necessarily. I don't think it necessarily means that it's over for James Gunn. Okay. If a Supergirl movie fails, then that means that the CEO's got to go. Like, that I think is a little silly. Like, you know what's another franchise that had a really successful movie out of the gate and then followed it up with a dud? The MCU, right? Much like Superman, the MCU started with Iron Man, which was awesome, made a lot of money, and then they followed it up with the Incredible Hulk. Now, I happen to like the Incredible Hulk, but it was not super well received at the time, and it flopped at the box office. And guess what? They didn't get rid of Kevin Feige, and Kevin Feige, frankly, I would argue went on to like do some even more questionable movies. Like Iron Man 2 made a lot of money, but it received a lot of criticism at the time. Thor wasn't like a super successful movie. Captain America, also not a super successful movie. But then he came out and really came out swinging with the Avengers. So the reality is that one bad Supergirl movie is not going to like completely tank DC Studios, right? Like if you really think about it from a macro perspective, they made a bad movie about a C-list character that nobody really cares about, right? It's not like if Man of Tomorrow ends up being the quality of Supergirl, then we have problems. If the Batman Part 2 ends up being the quality of Supergirl, then we got problems, right? If Wonder Woman or Brave and the Bold, like, those movies cannot be on the quality of Supergirl. And I'll even say this much. This is also another positive thing that we can take from this. Because the one part that I think this does bring up the questioning of James Gunn here is on this front. James Gunn has been going on and on for the past few years talking all about us, bro. We're like better than Marvel, bro, because we will not start filming a movie until the script is finished, bro. And like we always are going to make sure that the script is like the best that it can possibly be. And it's like, oh, really, James? What happened over here? Right? What happened with Supergirl? How did you let that happen? And that to me is where the true criticism of James Gunn now has to come into play, because it's like, you either were lying and saying that you, or in the sense that you were not like as ready to go when you started shooting Supergirl, because clearly that was not a great script. Unless it's the other situation where this is the script that you read all along and you thought it was great, and that's an issue in and of itself. Like, are you as good of a tastemaker as you kind of need to be if you're going to be the CEO of DC Studios? Like, there's a lot of issues with the pre-production that Supergirl just exposed that James Gunn absolutely needs to clear up moving forward. Because it can't be the case that, the only good stuff is when he himself is directing or writing it, and then he's not able to delegate to other filmmakers, right? Because that's the other angle of this, is that as the CEO of DC Studios, if a project is going by the wayside, he needs to be able to step in and help, right? Like, that's one of the major things that Kevin Feige does over at Marvel. If a really good example of this is Daredevil Born Again. For people who don't know, the original version of Daredevil Born Again was a show that still starred Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox, but it was like a completely different thing. They were essentially going to establish that the Netflix shows were not canon to the MCU, and that they were going to create their own Daredevil show that was canon to the MCU. And so it was essentially going to be a follow-up to the Netflix show, but that wasn't canonically attached to the Netflix show, but it still had some of the same actors. Seemed very confusing. Seemed like not a great idea. And what did Kevin Feige do? In the middle of them filming it, he saw what they were doing, and he said, "This is ass. We can't do this. Like, we need to go back and start again from the drawing board." And that's what James Gunn needed to do with this movie. I think he needed to realize while it was being made that things are not going good here. Whether it be the script just isn't playing the way that maybe he thought it would. Whether it's Craig Gillespie, maybe he was overwhelmed because he never made a big, budget movie like this before. Big budget action sci-fi movie like this before. Like, he needs to be able to step in and fix these things when they start going wrong. And I think it brings up another thing of maybe he needs to stop directing. Like, is one of the reasons why he wasn't able to step in and help this movie because he was working on Man of Tomorrow? Because if that's the case, then that's unacceptable, dude. Right? Like, this whole thing that, by the way, I was a proponent of. I thought it could work at first, of James Gunn being a co-CEO where Peter Safran does all the business stuff and James Gunn handles all the creative stuff. Like, maybe it's going to end up being the case that leaves him enough time to write and direct his own movies and stuff. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe that was a bit of a pipe dream, and James Gunn needs to decide, am I going to be a CEO or am I going to be a director? I don't know. It brings a lot of those kinds of questions into place, but to me, I guess I'll end this by saying that I think it brings a lot of questions and it creates a lot of problems. Supergirl does for James Gunn's tenureship. But I don't think that Supergirl failing means that James Gunn should be removed now. I simply don't think that this is that big of a deal to where, like, the universe is now not viable anymore. Right? I think it's entirely possible that this is the Incredible Hulk. This is their Incredible Hulk, and that they still have, your phases 2 and 3 ahead of them. And yeah, I don't think that you get rid of DC or of James Gunn at this point. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. So, speaking of James Gunn potentially getting removed from DC Studios, according to The Hollywood Reporter, James Gunn and Peter Safran have met with David Ellison. So let's read through this here. DC Studios co-chairman and co-CEOs James Gunn and Peter Safran have already met with Paramount Skydance chairman and CEO David Ellison amid the ongoing proposed merger between Warner Bros. Discovery and Paramount Skydance. At the Brooklyn blue carpet premiere of Supergirl on Monday night, executive producer Lars P. Winther confirmed that Ellison has already been to Atlanta, where Man of Tomorrow, the follow-up to 2025's Superman, is currently in production. He came to Trilith Studios already. That's where we shoot all our movies that James directs, Winther told The Hollywood Reporter. He came to Atlanta, we showed him everything, and we're having discussions with him. After Netflix declined to raise its bid for Warner Bros. Discovery, and Paramount and Warner Bros. Discovery agreed to move forward to the tune of a $111 billion mega deal, questions arose about Gunn and Safran's future at the helm of DC Studios. According to Winther, Ellison is currently interested in the duo's work and slate, which, when announced in 2023, included 10 titles. He's pretty open to what we're doing. We do have a slate and a lot of it. Obviously, Clayface is already coming out. We already have the Lanterns TV show. On those things, the train's left the station, so we're good. But he's a big fan. He's been great with us. He's giving us kind of what we want. So far, everything's good. So yeah, that kind of relates to what we were just talking about. We have one of the producers of DC Studios explicitly saying that David Ellison seemingly supports what Gunn and Safran are doing. I think that there are a lot of people that are going to, or that just assume that, David Ellison is going to come in there and fire James Gunn and Peter Safran, and I just don't see that happening. I don't see that happening just because Supergirl ends up being a failure. The most that I could see David Ellison doing is coming in and being like, all right, look, I appreciate these cute little things that you tried with Supergirl and Clayface and whatever. Where's Wonder Woman? Right? I could maybe see him having a bit more of a forceful hand and really deciding something drastic with Batman, where he's like, maybe David Ellison comes in and he's the bad guy, right? And he's frankly, if I'm James Gunn, I'm kind of hoping that ends up being the case, that David Ellison comes in and he's like, listen, Matt Reeves, great mustache. The Robert Pattinson is going to be the DCU Batman. We're not doing 2 live action Batman. that just is how it's going to go. Like, I could kind of see David Ellison maybe doing something like that. And if I'm James Gunn, I'm kind of hoping that that's the case. Because that I assume is like the biggest headache right now at DC Studios, is they're trying to crack a script for a live action Batman that isn't Robert Pattinson, that feels nothing like the Robert Pattinson Batman. It has to feel completely different, but it also can't feel so different that it's not really Batman. That's one of those points where I do give James Gunn grace, where I kind of believe that that's a really hard script that they're trying to crack. By the way, when you determine whether that script has been cracked, you better have higher standards than Supergirl, James Gunn. But yeah, but like, that's the thing, right? Like, that the most that I could see David Ellison doing is just like insisting that they move on to their more popular characters. But that's already kind of what they're doing, right? Like, they did Superman, now they're doing Supergirl, they're going to do Clayface, but if reports are to be believed, like, the only movies that we're really hearing like a ton of movement on is Batman and Wonder Woman. We're constantly hearing reports of Brave and the Bold. Like, Peter Safran was talking about Brave and the Bold the other day on the red carpet. We've heard like reports that DC is like fast tracking Wonder Woman, that Anna Nagura, unfortunately the lady who wrote Supergirl, Apparently she was working on Teen Titans, but now she's now been moved over to Wonder Woman. Like, they're working on Wonder Woman. They're working on Batman. And by the way, I'll say this about the DCU as well. If it does end up being the case that they end up like retroactively putting Robert Pattinson Batman in the DCU, well, does that not make the start of the DCU actually a lot better than you can, than we necessarily thought? Like, if that ends up happening, well, then the DCU started with the Batman, which is an incredible start. It then followed it up with the Penguin, which is an incredible follow-up, right? They then followed it up with Creature Commandos, which is pretty good, which was then followed up by Superman, which I thought was really good. Then they followed it up with Peacemaker Season 2, which I thought was really good, even though it had kind of a stinky season finale. Then you have a dud with Supergirl. But then that still leaves room for you to carry on the goodwill. So I'm just saying, if they end up making Robert Pattinson the DCU Batman, then we kind of do have to reevaluate how we see the beginning of the DCU. But yeah, the main thing that I will say at the end of all of this DC Studios discussion, I don't see James Gunn being fired, at least not yet. I think he would have to flub with Man of Tomorrow or Brave and the Bold or Wonder Woman before they consider firing him, personally. All right, next up, we got some more updates on some animated DC series. This is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. Absolute Batman, DC's comic book sensation, is heading to the screen. I like how instead of saying the big screen, because this isn't a movie, this is a TV show, it just says to the screen. The comic is being adapted as an animated series and will have the comic's creators, writer Scott Snyder and artist Nick Dragotta, involved with its development. And yeah, so this is the logo for it. I think that Absolute Batman could make for a really cool animated series for sure. I will say it is one of those like comic book series that I feel like is fairly like new. So I mean, I guess when I think about the way that TV shows are made, I guess part of me is like a little concerned because I think there are only like 20 something issues out. Could we ever get to a point where the animated series like catches up to the comic book and like then they have to decide like, do we just like stop and wait for Scott Snyder to continue writing the comic, or do we keep going or something crazy like that? That would be my only concern, just because I feel like the comic book is fairly new at this point. But yeah, no, Absolute Batman can make an awesome animated series. So if you don't know, the Absolute line of comics are these like Elseworlds type stories where characters like Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. They also have like Martian Manhunter. They have like the Flash. They're basically takes on these characters that are radically different from how they're usually portrayed. But they still try to carry like the essence of who those characters are. So Absolute Batman, for example, is not a billionaire. Only one of his parents died, I believe. And he's like a construction worker. But he's still Batman. And that is like, it is such an insane adaptation. Like, it's incredibly violent. Like, the villains can be kind of insane. Like, you know, like they're like wacky and different versions of Two-Face, Joker, like Bane and Killer Croc. Like, I highly recommend people read the comic book because A, it's very good, and B, it feels incredibly fresh. And yeah, I mean, I think it definitely could work in an animated series. The other thing is that we're talking about how we can't have two live action Batman. If this gets greenlit, it already has been greenlit. We're going to potentially have 3 Spider-Man or Batman cartoons running at the same time, because we have the Bat Fam, which is like a children's Batman animated series that's like currently going at right now. We have Batman Caped Crusader, which is like the Batman the Animated Series follow-up, which is getting a second season that's launching later this year. And then we have Absolute Batman. I hope that this doesn't mean that Caped Crusader is going to get canceled. I hope that's not what this means. But I guess that is a possibility. So yeah, we'll see. All right, next up we have an animated series announcement called Joker Laugh Riot. This is the logo. And we also have a bit of a description here. Joker is being executive produced by longtime DC animation vet Jim Krieg, who worked on the recent adaptations of DC Classics Watchmen and Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yasuhiro Aoki is directing, while Sola Entertainment of Japan is working with Warner Animation and DC Studios. The project has not yet been set with a network. In what sounds like a compelling hook, the story sees the clown prince of crime becoming a variation of his arch nemesis, a detective solving a killing. The logline revealed at Annecy states, when Batman is murdered, the Joker launches a ruthless crusade through Gotham's underworld to find the killer who took away his greatest adversary. But as his violent quest for answers pushes him closer towards vigilante than villain, Joker is forced to confront the truth that without Batman, he doesn't know who he is. Okay, so that's obviously not something that I have preconceived notions of because it's an original story. But I guess it sounds like it could be interesting, you know? And it seems like it's going to be an anime because it's going to be made by a Japanese studio. So I think that's technically considered an anime, even though it's being worked on with Warner Animation, whatever. Yeah, we'll see. I guess what is this going to be, like Death Note, but with the Jonkler? I wonder if they'll actually commit to Batman being murdered. Like, I wonder if we're not going to get a reveal by the end of the series that, oh, he was actually alive the whole time. But yeah, I it could be good. It could also be a little cringe. Like, I remember there was that Suicide Squad anime that wasn't great. So I'm not going to like necessarily go out of my way to be like super excited for this. But yeah, I will hope for the best. I'm no longer as anti-anime as I used to be, you know. I've been watching One Piece, unfortunately. It's taking up a lot of my time. I'm on episode like 220 something right now. Yeah, I no longer have racism in my heart. We'll see. They also greenlit a Krypto animated series. This one seems like it's probably going to be more so for children. Finally, Warner's and DC Studios have set C.H. Greenblatt, somebody from SpongeBob SquarePants, another animation vet, to executive produce an untitled Krypto series. The logline states, when he's not hanging out with Superman or Supergirl, Krypto tags along with a gang of misfit criminal wannabes who live down the block, and they soon discover he's a ball of destructive, lovable energy worse than any of them. As he follows them into misadventures and poorly laid plans, Krypto's pure nature slowly ends up redeeming them, whether they want it or not. That one definitely sounds the least interesting, especially because it just kind of feels like a repeat of that DC League of Super Pets movie that came out a few years ago. So we'll see. That's the one that I have like the least interest in. But yeah, I'll definitely watch Absolute Batman as well as that Joker anime thing. I already forgot the name of it. What is it called again? Joker Laugh Riot. I'll definitely watch that one as well. But yeah, let me know what you think of those in the comments down below. All right, next up, Invincible Season 6 has just been renewed before we even got Season 5. So it's coming from Deadline. Prime Video's Invincible has been renewed for a 6th season. And then they also add some interesting information. Season 4 has just wrapped and was the most watched to date, according to Kirkman's Invincible producer Skybound Entertainment, hitting the top 10 in more than 50 territories. It also says here that season 5 will air next year, and Kirkman revealed today that Jack Quaid will join the voice cast. And this is a picture of who Jack Quaid will be voicing. If I'm being honest, I can't remember who this character is, or if he even is from the comic books. I don't remember. So yeah, interesting stuff here, right? Amazon is clearly trying to continue that thing of releasing a season every year, which I super appreciate. I feel like the whole thing of needing to wait multiple years in between seasons is nonsense. They used to not be that way. I feel like it doesn't have to be that way, but whatever. I'll excuse some stuff like, House of the Dragon or whatever. But I don't know. Especially if they're like an animated show, like come out every year. It's fine. I'll take the shitty animation. I don't care. I'm one of those people. But yeah, it's also interesting to note that season 4 was the most watched season to date. I'll be honest, streaming viewership is just not one of those things that I keep up with a ton. It just feels like sometimes it feels like it's a little hard to track with like all these different like Nielsen data points. I think Netflix is the only one that releases raw numbers. I don't know. I do wish that it was like the box office where it just like there is like an organized body of people that give you the objective data of how much a movie made. I wish that was the case for streaming, but it's not really. But it is interesting that we can definitively say, according to them, that Invincible season 4 was the most watched season to date, which is pretty cool that the show still is picking up steam even in its 4th season. Because I love Invincible, so I'm glad to see its success. Another thing I'll mention, people do seem to start getting Jack Quaid fatigue. Because people were like really mad at his voice acting in that God of War Laufey game, if you know anything about that. So I remember when I saw people reacting to this on Twitter, and they were like getting mad because Jack Quaid, they think that he's like this super famous voice actor that, well, they basically think that the reason why the animation is as bad as it is because they're paying famous voice actors, and so they can't afford to get better animation. I actually don't think that that's the reason, to be honest with you. Like the reality is that Invincible has 50-minute long episodes. That's not really a thing in animation, right? Like animation is usually like 20, maybe 30 minutes per episode. Like they're doing an hour-long drama with Invincible. And I think that that's probably where most of the budget is going towards. It is into making these meaty episodes that you don't normally find. I feel like people probably overstate how much a lot of these actors are getting paid, and I don't know that. I just don't know if the math works that way. That voice actors, even famous celebrity voice actors, if it wasn't for their salaries, then they would be able to afford better animation. I just don't know if the math works that way. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not going to act like I'm informed. But that my instinct is just that I doubt that that's true, especially now that they're doing a new season every year. I don't know how much money you can realistically throw at the process to just make it faster. I don't know. You can let me know what you think about that in the comments down below, though. All right, next up, we got some Daredevil Born Again Season 3 set photos. I guess if you consider this a spoiler, because it is going to reveal somebody that's in the show, and it's also going to reveal something about where a character is at. So I don't know, if you consider that kind of stuff spoilers, then maybe click away, but I feel like these images are getting pretty widely circulated, so I don't even really think it's a spoiler at this point. Especially, I would actually argue this. I feel like these studios, they know now that when they film outside, people are going to take pictures of it and post it on social media. I would argue that that Marvel filming, whenever they go outside to film, I would argue that they're baiting people to take pictures, post it on social media, because it's free publicity. And it works because I'm talking about it on the show now. Anyways, I feel like I'm giving enough warning that you would have clicked off by now if you don't want to see it. We have Elodie Yung as Elektra. She's coming back for Daredevil Bourne Again Season 3. I believe this is a new Elektra costume, right? I don't think we've ever seen this before. And so this is interesting because the last time we saw Elektra, she was getting she was making out with Matt, and they were inside of a building that was like rubble was coming down all around them. And I think then that was like at the end of the Defenders, but then Daredevil Season 3 just opens with him like recuperating, right? Like, I don't think do they say exactly how he got out of that? Basically, all I'm saying is that if Matt was able to survive that, it's really not a stretch that Elektra was able to survive that. So, yeah, I mean, her coming back actually makes a ton of sense. And I think she's great. You know, she's... Okay, how do I want to say this? Elodie Yung is kind of on the older side of where you would expect an actress to be playing Elektra is, right? I think she's like in her mid-40s. But all I'm going to say is she still looks great. Like, yeah, she obviously still looks like she can pull this role off. Like, if you told me that this person was like in their 30s, I would believe you. So it just is interesting how Daredevil has gone on for so long, and these characters have been playing these roles for so long. And that's just an interesting thing. Not a complaint at all that Elodie Yung is still playing Elektra. I guess the real and then I guess let me show the picture of Matt in his new Daredevil costume. So this is arguably a spoiler, but again, I make the argument that if Marvel is filming outside, then they know that people are going to take pictures and talk about it. So I don't really consider it a spoiler. Anyways, we have a shot of Daredevil's new costume. And it is like kind of black, but then it has like red on the sides of it. It has some red on the helmet. I don't know that I like this one quite as much as the season 1 or as the Daredevil Born Again season 2 suit. Like, dude, there was just something about that suit that was like black at the beginning of the season, and then like the paint was like slowly across as the season went on, like the paint was slowly painting off so that the shades of red would start to come through. There is something about that season or about that suit that is so sexy. This one is cool, but I just don't know that they're ever going to be able to top the aesthetic of that Daredevil Born Again season 2 suit. But yeah, obviously the main thing to say about this is that he's out of prison, I guess. Obviously, if you watch Daredevil season 2, he was in prison at the end of it. At some point in Daredevil Born Again season 3, he is going to be out of prison and he's going to be Daredevil again. Will it be because he gets broken out of prison by Spider-Man in Spider-Man Brand New Day? Maybe, perhaps. We'll see. We shall see. I mean, I doubt that they would do that. Like, I doubt that they would make it be that you have to watch Daredevil or that you would have to watch Spider-Man in order to understand what happened. But that's literally what they did with Daredevil, the Netflix show. Like, you kind of have to watch the Defenders and before season 3 of Daredevil, or else you're going to be missing context as to why Matt is like all damaged and stuff. That it's not like they haven't done that in the past. So yeah, going to be very curious to see if all of the, in my opinion, teasing of Daredevil showing up in Spider-Man Brand New Day ends up coming through. And if Spider-Man does actually find Daredevil in the prison, and if he is actually in the movie, and if in that movie they materially affect the story of Daredevil, and that actually leads into season 3. It'll be very curious to see if that ever happens. All right, last story of the day. We have kind of an absurd story. Apparently, Zendaya is going to be the new Jason Bourne. This is coming from Jeff Schneider from the Hot Mic. So we're just gonna play some of their podcast here. Let's see.
So, let's talk about this other thing here, Jeff. What is this Zendaya for Jason Bourne? What's going on with this? Is this real? Jeff Snyder, talk to us about it. What's the situation? That's what I'm asking you. That's what I'm asking.
It was though. What if it was? Yeah, no. So again, back in March, I ran a long list of possible Bournes, right? Because I heard that they had their Bourne. Never heard a name. A couple weeks ago, I heard Zendaya's got a new action movie. Never heard the name. What's the action movie? This makes a ton of fucking sense.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know how someone could argue that it doesn't. You've got a franchise that's been on ice for a decade.
Yeah.
Okay? The last movie wasn't good. Jason Bourne?
No.
Tell me it's a good movie? No.
No. I agree.
Matt Damon's now a decade older. He's going to be 56 this fall. Daniel Craig walked away from Bond at 53.
Yeah.
Cruise is fucking Tom Cruise. And look at how those last two Mission Impossible movies performed. He's 60. Matt Damon, I don't need you to be Jason Bourne. This is not a lifetime appointment. Time to reboot this franchise with someone who's more relevant to Gen Z, okay, who's buying the movie tickets. And if you can't, if you're going to reboot it, what, should we get another fucking white guy, like, who's just going to be a white guy who's not as good or as cool as whoever they cast as James Bond? Like, would you cast the number 7, 8 white guy, Tom Blythe or whoever, right? Or do you go out and get the number 1 actress of her generation, essentially, right? Someone who demonstrably puts butts in seats, even in movies that you're like if that wasn't her in the drama, it's like a $20 million movie, $25 million.
Agreed, 100%.
100%. $40 million, that's a $96 million in her hands. The drama is $132 million or something in her hands.
Yeah.
She's gold. So if she wants to do a fucking action movie, you cast her in your action movie if it makes sense. It ain't called the Jason Bourne identity, the Jason Bourne supremacy. It's the Bourne identity. You don't need the gender.
Right.
You just need someone who can believably play an amnesiac spy. I think she would be really good. It came from a very good source, someone with an excellent track record. I'm not going to tell you the scoops that they're behind.
Okay.
But a very, very good track record. Then I called someone, and they said, I heard the same thing, but I heard it a while ago, which made me think, oh, you heard it back in March when I fucking heard that they got a fucking actor for Bourne. Okay. Then I asked another person. I waited an extra morning for that person to get back to me. And they were like, I don't really know, but it feels true. Like, from what I'm getting poking around. Granted, it's denied. I have an obligation as a reporter to include Universal's denial.
Right.
Just because they deny something doesn't mean that my sources aren't saying it, that I don't believe it's true or was true at one point. Okay.
Right.
So even though they're like, listen, we can't, we're denying that she's going to be the next Bourne. We don't have a deal. We're not talking to her right now. Whatever. And then I'm like, okay, but you definitely had talks with her, right, for Bourne? And they're like, no comment. Okay, what do you want from me? Like, yes, I'm gonna run that. Every fucking trade has been holding that story, by the way.
Oh wow.
I mean, they've all called, and you could argue the other side of it is, well, they didn't print anything because there's no news to print, or because they actually have standards, Jeff, and you're a fucking bottom feeder of the internet. Maybe so, but this is what's going on behind closed doors. This is what is happening. These are the fucking conversations that I bring to you that the trades don't have the balls to do, because it's not confirmed. It's not a closed deal. Like, they're exploring this fucking idea of gender flipping this character and casting basically the biggest actress you could do that with. Sorry.
Is this...
Sorry, my mic was off. Sorry, so my apologies. I normally don't I know I'm not really not one to like just like try and like take somebody's like entire segment and just play it on the show. So definitely go check out John Roca. He does the Hot Mic podcast with Jeff Schneider. It's a legitimately great podcast. And they continue talking about it more on their channel, so definitely go and check them out. You know, Jeff makes an interesting point, because my initial instinct is that would be a disaster. We actually have an example of some other guy trying to step into the mantle or whatever of Jason Bourne with what was it called, like the Bourne Legacy. Like, I looked up the box office here, because the third Bourne movie made like $400 million, and then the last one that came out, which was Jason Bourne, it made $400 million, and this like Jeremy Renner one only made like $276 million, which is, you know, a pretty massive step down. Jason brings, Jeff Snyder brings up an interesting point where, like, yeah, if you bring on just like another random white guy to try and take oh god, what's his name again? Matt Damon's place, that is also a risk. Like, yes, obviously, is it a risk to go with a female Bourne replacement? Of course, it's going to turn into a whole culture war thing. It being a black woman also is obviously going to inflame people even more. But it's also not really the case that if you get just another white guy in there, like, it's still not Matt Damon. And clearly, it was proven by the Jeremy Renner movie that audiences are not just going to watch a Jason Bourne movie just because it's Jason Bourne. It's like they kind of just they want to watch Jason Bourne when it's played by Matt Damon. And by the way, I should emphasize this as well. I've never watched a Bourne movie, so I have no stake in this. But I will say that I, generally speaking, have the perspective of, yeah, sure, I don't care. Like, do race swaps, do gender swaps, do whatever swaps. I don't get precious about that kind of thing. And you can bring up whatever example and be like, oh, would you want a white Black Panther? Sure. If you have a story to tell about a white Black Panther, go for it. I don't really care. So yeah, like, I'd be like, I don't care about Zendaya playing. Well, I guess that would be the question is Jason Bourne kind of like James Bond? And what I mean by that is, because you can have other like double O's, right? Like, was Jeremy Renner Jason Bourne like another, like, was that a reboot where he played Jason Bourne, or did he play another character in the Bourne universe? So, like, if Zendaya were to come in and be the lead in the next Bourne movie, would she be playing a gender swapped version of who Matt Damon played, or would she be playing like another agent in the universe of Jason Bourne? I guess similar to Ballerina, what Ana de Armas did. And yeah, I mean, Jeff Snyder's also not wrong about the whole thing of Zendaya kind of being like one of the few box office draws in the industry right now. Like, he's not wrong. The drama making like $100-something million is kind of crazy. Like, that is a little bit insane in the membrane that movie made as much money as it did. And he's not wrong. Like, I mean, obviously, you know, to be fair, Robert Pattinson was also in there too. Like, I do think part of it was probably Zendaya and Robert Pattinson in a movie together. But yeah, clearly there is like the people like Zendaya. She is a movie star. Or at least as much of a movie star as we necessarily get these days. But I don't know, if I'm Zendaya, even like, yeah, like with that being the case, considering she is a movie star, considering she is somebody that can be in, I don't know if it was an indie movie, but that can be in a smaller movie like The Drama, and a more interesting movie like The Drama, and get it to $100 million. It's like, do you really want to be like, do you really want to eat Matt Damon's, you know, sloppy seconds and be like in a Bourne spin-off thing or reboot? Or if you're Zendaya and you want to be in an action movie, maybe you want to do your own like original thing. I feel like that would be the direction that Zendaya would maybe want to go in if she was going to do action at some point. Or maybe exclude, because she's already in stuff like Spider-Man. She's already in, the Dune movies. I almost feel like her being in Bourne is kind of beneath her in a way at this point. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a super interesting report that Jeff Snyder put out there. And he obviously clarified at the end that Universal is denying it. So it seems like it was something that was being discussed, but probably won't go through. And I think probably for the obvious reasons. I think the culture war stuff. And I think because of what I mentioned, like, I just don't know if that's really where you want to go if you're a Zendaya. Especially when you've also managed to avoid a lot of controversy. It's like, do you want to be like the next Rachel Zegler or the next Millie Alcock or the next Brie Larson? In the sense that, like, if she did this, she will be made a target for the anti-woke freaks. Like, they absolutely will. Even if she doesn't say anything dumb on the red carpet, like, they will misconstrue her and they will make, whatever straw man arguments that they want. So yeah, super fascinating thing, but I don't think it's going to end up going through. Either way, that's going to be it for this episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. This is the show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. Let me know what you think about any of the topics discussed in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.